Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. So we are about to kickstart this all-important edition of the HR Focus Interactive. Now, design thinking is more than a process. Do we agree? It has grown to become a phenomenon, a very important phenomenon that hasn't just contributed to every phase of what we do, but then again has become a very integral part of the outcomes of everything that we want to achieve. From conceptualizing to ideating to empathizing, even to execution and to reviews, design thinking is important. Now, tonight we are going to look at the concept of design thinking and how we can use it to improve the processes of human resource management. And some amazing people are going to help us to do that. But before we invite them, turn to the one sitting next to you, say hello to them, officially welcome them, tell them they look amazing. If possible, give them a hug. Oh, are we done greeting them? Okay, then turn to the one behind you as well. Oh, there's no one behind you. Okay, then turn to me. I like your dress. You're looking amazing. What's your name?
I'm Nanaya Dampare.
Nanaya. Hey, Dampare. Is your father Dampare? Ah, okay. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, we're about to kick it off, and I would like to invite our panelists, the people that are going to be sharing their thoughts with us. Like I said earlier, my name is Kosi Fiaka. I'll be guiding us through this conversation, looking to learn as much as I can from every single person that's seated here. And we want to say a big thank you once again for showing up, looking all amazing, and getting ready for this. So our first panelist currently serves as the head of human resources at Petrosol Ghana Limited, a leading ISO certified oil marketing company, where he has oversight responsibility for a staff strength of about 750. Hey Charlie, that's a massive number of people. Now, he's a senior HR and leadership development specialist with over a decade of experience. He's a member of the senior leadership team where he supports long-term value creation through business partnering, talent, culture, leadership, and organizational effectiveness. He's a product of Prempeh College. He holds an MBA. He's also a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants, Nigeria, and a member of the Institute of Directors, Ghana. He loves to read management literature. He loves to play tennis. He likes to watch football, combat sports, and he likes to travel. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the one and only David L.O Mills. We can do it better for him. And he's a very hard guy. He's a hard guy. Welcome, David. Thank you. Our next panelist is a seasoned HR practitioner. She's currently an HR manager at Telecel. How many people use Telecel? Telecel, okay, amazing. And is responsible for resourcing, talent management, learning and development, and shared services. She holds an MSc in Human Resource Management and Organizational Analysis from the King's College London, a certificate in International Gets Out OG, leadership development, and a certified training and development professional credential from ILM. She's passionate about developing and empowering people and organizations to achieve their full potential. She has successfully designed and implemented various initiatives and programs to enhance the leadership and development, executive search, and performance management in her organization. And with a resounding round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, shall we welcome Mary Bennette. We can do it better. We can do it better for Mary. We can do it better. She has some Telecel goodies for us. So let's give her. I mean, the more you clap, the more data. Let's give her. This man wants plenty. What do you want to use the data for? So, ladies and gentlemen, next up, for our next panelist, is highly regarded by both colleagues and stakeholders for his outstanding performance and resilience in his HR role. His innovative ideas and commitment to driving change have earned him respect and recognition from top management. Outside of his corporate responsibilities, he serves as a life coach, extending his expertise to help others. He has received numerous awards for his exceptional contributions and was recently appointed as the Director of Operations for the Association of Certified HRs. He's a very big man. He holds a degree in banking and finance, along with certifications in senior professional in human resource international, leadership in employee relations and engagement, and an executive mastery certificate in leadership and human resources. The only blot is that he supports Manchester United. So with a resounding round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, he's going to give us hope. Shall we welcome Mr. Hope Yibor, ladies and gentlemen. So I present to you our panel, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure we want to hear initial comments from them. Hello, David. How are you doing, boss?
Very well. Yourself?
Charlie,
And hi, good evening to everybody. Pleasure to meet you all.
The voice alone is on a different level, man. Is it Mrs. or Miss Bennett? Mrs. Bennett, how are you doing?
Papa, call me Mary.
Mary. Okay, Mother of Jesus, Mary. Hi, Mary. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
We're glad to have you.
Glad to be here. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be here. I was telling Irabna earlier on that it feels like a full circle moment because years ago, I did some work for Lando and Lene for the Ghana Telecom phone directory. In the UK and other countries, it's called the Yellow Pages. And I got to be trained on assertiveness with Lene services. And that sparked my interest in HR. So now I'm on the other side. I'm working for Telecel and having a conversation on HR focus forum. So I appreciate it and thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate you being here. A round of applause for Mrs. Bennett, Mary. Mary had a little lump. Mr. Yibor, he's Hope and he's black. Fantastic. How are you doing, boss?
Very well. I like your sneakers.
Oh, thank you. You've actually got my name on them.
I know, right?
Well, how are you doing, boss? I'm following you. You're my mentor, so.
Oh, no. I think it's the other way around. I'm actually following you. He's a big man. You're actually a big man.
Disclaimer, don't listen to anything he says. Within the next 10 seconds.
So I think the year is almost started. We're almost done with the first quarter. And if a company hasn't had their strategy session yet, I would say that it's not too late for you to have your strategy session and for you to have what we are going to discuss here, incorporate them into your system and see how best we can run the year. The year just started. We still have about 3 quarters more to go. So we can still make amends and correct whatever we did wrong and then do the needful. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we're going to kick off with the ball rolling. We're going to, first of all, look at design thinking. I'm sure we all know what design thinking is. We don't. Okay. But then again, design thinking is amazing because it's can be seen through a certain kaleidoscope, and it has a lot of different perspectives because it's a problem-solving approach. And people say you don't solve all problems in the same way, and you don't solve the same problem in different ways. So we want to look at it generally. Now, I'm sure you've come across design thinking in a lot of things that you've done, in a lot of your endeavors, etc. I mean, from your point of view, very emphasize that point of view, how would you define design thinking?
Yeah, so I think it's more used in the world of technology, innovation, etc., etc. But, I mean, it can be adapted in different environments. So it's important to know what design thinking actually means. And if you have heard me before, I like to use acronyms. So there's a process, it's a very non-linear, iterative process for coming up with ideas to respond to problems. You can look at it from an acronym. So EDIPT. So that's in-depth. So the E is empathize. What it means is that, you can't create something until you first understand it. Now, how best can you understand something if you don't empathize with the situation? I've always said that you can't help a person until you first understand the person. What that means is that you have to empathize with the person. So empathizing is the first step. Then you look at The second is D, right? So Charlie, you have to help me out. But I think the I is ideation, and then the P is what? Prototype, and then you test. Yeah. So basically,
I think that the D should be design.
Design, great. So it's a non-linear iterative process. What it means is that it's an everyday evolving concept of thinking about solutions and responding to problems. Now, within the context of HR, I think that we are fundamentally faced with a real problem. First is that across every sector, every institution, if you're an HR practitioner, you're most likely dealing with a multi-generational workforce. So you're going to have people who are in their 50s, 40s, 30s, and then the Gen Zs. And that's an imminent challenge. I say that because every generational workforce has expectations and has certain things that define who they are. Now, it's just not easy bringing people who think differently to cohabitate. That itself is a potential platform for conflict. So what it means is that we have to think about how, as HR practitioners, we bring these people together, knowing that they are coming together is also creates synergy, which helps the business to create value. But mindful of the fact that there will be frictions. Every now and then I get one Gen Z come tell me that this person said this person did misunderstood something I said, and so on and so forth. So it's important we look at how we can mend or merge these multi-generational workforce to cohabitate, work together, and create value for the enterprise.
I like the demographic angle that you took this from. It's very interesting. So coming to you, Mary. We have a very dynamic and a very diverse workforce. Now, statistics say that by 2025, millennials will make up 75% of the global workforce. We probably have just a year to go for that to happen. As a result, there definitely will be a dominant demographic. Now, design thinking has evolved, right? And it has evolved over all the different demographics. But then the different demographics view it differently. Because for the Gen Z, design thinking is different from what it is to you and I and all of that. Now, in standardizing design thinking across the board, what can we do to ensure that we don't step on toes and we are all on the same page?
Thank you for that question. I believe that every one of us here has an idea of the demographics of our workforce, right? With regards to age, with regards to gender, etc. And I think what's so important is that whenever we are introducing a new thing, we are designing a new program, we are looking at a new strategy, we of course do not do it in isolation. And design thinking to me is just like the Gestalt approach, where you don't sit in isolation and make decisions. You believe that the system knows the answers to the solution. So first of all, what is important is that you put together different work groups, ensuring that you have support from leadership for whatever project or strategy you are putting together. You make sure that you have different representatives from different sections of your organization based on your data. It's also important that you start with brainstorming, right? Thinking through what are the problems, what are the solutions, how do we think we can resolve this, what are the challenges we might face, how can we resolve them, right? And then my colleague here mentioned ideation, right? So you come up with different ideas on how you can resolve it. And it's not sitting in one spot, it's all of us. It's important to define who leads those groups and teams of people. And then as ideation, you design. But what's important is that once you design it, it's not the final solution. And lots of people, Maxwell, our HRite and star, would share with you that what's important is that you do a user acceptance testing, right? Now, you can't do things in isolation because the users are your multi-generational workforce, and they would have come in and put in ideas on how you can do some of these things. You do a user acceptance testing, you roll it out, you take on feedback, and then you evaluate, and the cycle continues. I can give practical examples, but I'm sure we'll get back to that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it will be useful to do that,
okay.
Because we are still at the stage where we are looking at the fundamentals. So the practical examples will give us a clear picture of what we are looking at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's really helpful is that as an organization, as you are aware, we used to be Vodafone Ghana. We are now Telecel Ghana. What's still constant is that we are still Ghana Telecommunications Limited, right? We are still Ghanaian, and so. things like our values, our culture will change because we have new shareholders, etc. And so we had to look at what does our values look like going forward? What would it look like? What does it look like now? What would it look like going forward? Also considering the future of work. And we didn't do that in isolation, sitting, just our leadership team sitting and putting it together. We put together what we call change ambassadors, pick people, different age groups, different gender, from different functions. We put together, what was important is that we were all going through that process. So we did get a consultant to help us facilitate the session, where we sat down and thought through what does our values look like? What do we want? What does group values look like? What do we want Cell Ghana's values to look like, considering where we've been and where we are going? And then how do we want it, the values, the behaviors, statements, how do you want that to look like? What does it mean for us? And then we sat down, we did this, we had quite a number, and then we scheduled another session, sat down and whittled it down to a number that works for us, 5. And then the change agents then, or we call them change ambassadors, we put them on a WhatsApp group, we had conversations around it, we created visuals around the offices, we had some other engagement activities around it. But it wasn't just, our executive committee, it wasn't just, or what we call our senior leadership team, it wasn't just, different senior leaders, middle managers, or our next geners, or our, if you like, our early career professionals. No, it was a cross-section of the organization. And we rolled it out. Yeah.
That's impressive. Hope, Mary has made some very interesting points, and she's been very practical with these points. In making these points, she made reference to a lot of different actors and a lot of different processes. Now, when it comes to actors and processes, then skill set comes in. Design thinking requires a certain level of skill set. I'm sure for all the people Mary spoke about that did the amazing stuff, from the stars to the early career people to the top management, etc. For them to be part of that process, that systematic process, they required a certain skill set. I mean, for you, with your experience, etc., I mean, what specific skill sets are required to plug into this design thinking process to make sure that we improve all the HR functions that come with it?
I think that design thinking has become a skill that most employers are actually looking for now, that if you go for an interview, you want to see someone who has that ability. So designing something of that nature for the company, you don't want to look out for people who are ready, number one, mentally, people who are ready to occupy certain roles and are available. Sometimes you have people working and they are totally distracted. You want to know people who want to develop their career in a certain path. If you take someone who would not want to go into that direction and you put a person, there's going to be a challenge. So you want to look out for people who are ready to reskill and upskill them. Now, what are some of the things that they will need? Their competency. You want to do a competency gap analysis to check if they have what is required for them to occupy that role. So do that analysis and see what is required for them to be there. If they don't have it, then you do a training. Way back in Olam, where I used to be the people development lead, we have the training metrics where you do the analysis to see what a person has got today and where the person must be. So that gap is what informs the kind of training you want to give to the person. If you don't do that, you would shoot yourself in the foot by not giving the person the requisite training the person will need to occupy that role. And at the end of the day, the person may not perform. And if the person does not perform, it comes back to the organization. And you would not get the profit or the productivity that you want from the employee. So it's good to reskill, it's good to upskill, it's good to do all that. But you must also be mindful of the fact that is the person ready or is the person available to fit that role? Sometimes we are in a haste to put people into roles. We are in a haste to put people in places they are not ready. And they will go and fail. Not because they actually wanted to fail, but because they were not ready or because they didn't have what it takes to be there. So we need to have people who are ready for certain roles, put them there, and they will do, out of passion, they themselves would carve their career path out of that. Because I, for instance, when I always say this, Sonia, my boss, was the one that actually trained me, and then she would identify that, okay, this young man can do this. So she put the whole of training in my hands and say that, do this. And it was an opportunity for me to now showcase what I have inwardly. Okay, so then I had to do it. But when you bring somebody who is not ready for that role, to occupy that role, and the person is not ready, mentally the person is not ready, I mean, the whole of the frame of the person is not ready, you end up being the one losing. But it is good for us to train a person. Once the person is mentally okay, train the person, do the gap analysis, and see how best the person can fit to the role. Give the person the requisite training, and let the person, I mean, there will be mistakes, then they'll have to learn from their mistakes and grow from that.
So he's rocked the apple cart. So he's taking me from fundamentals to outcomes. So don't worry, we'll come back to the middle, but then we need to deal with the issues. Now, David, he's spoken about the outcomes of design thinking and the fact that, listen, you put people that you don't have the requisite skills, etc. But now we are in an era of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all of these amazing terms. You guys understand it better than I do. Then again, when you look at the outcomes of design thinking, be it on the individual employee or on the organization, right? There are a lot of nuances that we either have to consider or sidestep as a result of this diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. Now, based on what Hope has said about the considerations that have to be made, are they hard and fast? Or sometimes we can make certain allowances?
So first, let me say this. I think, and since we are all HR people, let me state this preamble. See, in my opinion, there are 4 things that drive organizational growth, greatness, or success: talent, culture, leadership, and then technology, or you can say digitization. Now, out of the 4, 3 of them are fundamental HR imperatives. I'm trying to make the case that as HR people, we are custodians of organizational growth and greatness, and we have to understand that. Because if you don't bring in the right people, and you see, as the world of work evolves and changes, is the reason conversations like this were not had 15, 20 years ago. Indeed, when you check the trajectory in terms of technological adaptation in Africa, the research shows that we are about 2 decades often behind. And I often use one example, HR business partner concept. There are a lot of companies that still struggle to get that concept right in terms of talent, alignment, and then delivery. All right, so that's how late sometimes we are to the party. But fortunately, with COVID and all of that, our hands are being forced to do things that would have taken us 20 years to do. So, knowing that we drive 3 imperatives on the greatness scorecard, what it means is that as HR people, we have to understand that we play a pivotal role, you know. And I have learned from experience that one way you influence decisions at the executive level is to be a trusted advisor to the CEO. Nobody hires anybody who is going to be a pain in their neck. As a matter of fact, the reason people are hired is not because we have seats in organizations for them to fill. It's because we want you to come and lessen somebody's burden. So it's very important we understand this. I think sometimes as HR people, and see, all these conversations about design thinking and how we look at our people experience end to end and tweak it and innovate and all of that comes to naught if we don't get approval at the executive level. I was just in a conversation with somebody before I came here, and the person was...
Not to cut you, but doesn't design thinking give you that leverage to get that approval? Because it's a process, it's a proven process with predetermined outcomes that cannot necessarily be disproved because of metrics and data.
Yeah, it's fine. You know, you can always back things with data. I'm talking about having to contend with a CEO who may not even understand the kind of things you are talking about. Okay. And if you check, I mean, the research shows that about 7% of HR professionals will become CEOs. So often people who gravitate to CEO roles are not even from HR.
Just 7%?
Yes. I mean, that's what
that's paltry.
The literature shows.
Okay, so please, are we considering changing our...
No, but there's hope. I mean, there are a few HR professionals who have become CEOs, few. So there's hope. I think that it also means that there's a challenge for us to assert our commercial awareness, be more business savvy, and make a case. But the point I'm making is that to get CEOs to buy into things like this, the relationship that exists between the CEO and HR is very important. And it has to be one that is based or edged in trust. Because too many times, HR people are either making compassionate arguments or They are making arguments that often doesn't align with the CEO's thinking.
So doesn't that necessitate design thinking?
It does, and I agree with you. I'm just saying that in all of this, you see, these are things that they sound very nice on paper, but they are newbies to the world of work. So, and we are talking about change management here. I'm saying that in order to get CEOs approval of concepts that seem new to them, the relationship that exists between you and the CEO is paramount, you know. And so I don't disagree with the pivotal role design thinking plays in organizational renewal.
But
and so on and so
sometimes
forth.
there are variations that we have to consider. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, there are, but I'm just saying that it's, for me, the relationship that exists is key. Because you can't get approval, you can't get to the end of something if the CEO doesn't understand the conversation you're having. That's the point I'm trying to make, yeah.
I love David because he's one of the most practical people you'd ever meet. Maybe that's why we're doing our back and forth. A round of applause for David, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so hope. Give us some hope. I mean, David made some very interesting points, and in making these points, he more or less preferred alternatives to design thinking. Okay, talking about compassionate arguments, etc. Because design thinking is very systematic. Okay. Now, as HR professionals, everything we do has to be systematic. True or false? True. Yeah. So, in that being said, when it comes to employee engagement, for example, I mean, what role do you think design thinking plays in making that process more fluid and much more systematic?
I think recently I chanced upon something. I was writing something for my CEO, and I needed to do a quick research so I can have my facts right. And I realized that I think the website said about 87% of employees are disengaged. Probably you can Google it and see if it's true or not. But most employees are disengaged. So what can we do to engage employees? A lot of steps must be put in place. What is causing them to be disengaged? I remember I took up a role some time ago, and the very moment I entered into the office, I realized that, no. Right from the beginning.
You saw it.
I just saw it. It's a not. So what do we do from onboarding of the employee? From maybe, let's say, recruitment, the selection, and then the onboarding. Most of the times, we trivialize the onboarding. We think that, let's relegate the onboarding to somebody to just do it. When the key managers are not available. The people who are supposed to speak to the people are not available. People who know the company very well are not available. People who can convince the employee that this is the right place for you to be are not available. From there, you are already asking the person to leave because this is not a great organization for you to work in. So it is a systematic way, right from the beginning, from when you recruited a person, selected a person to fill up the role, till when the person actually exits the company. And an onboarding does not end maybe a week. For some organizations, they will do maybe a week or two. Onboarding, go through all the system, check with HR, check with marketing, check with sales, check with all the departments, and then it is done. No, it doesn't end there. It goes beyond just the 1 week or 2 weeks. Employee engagement there starts from there. For me, I feel the employee engagement starts right from there. The employee will be disengaged if your onboarding is wrong. If your onboarding is wrong, the employee will be disengaged. Now, after the employee has settled, what again are you going to put in place for the employee to be satisfied? A lot of benefits, a lot of options are available for the employee, but if you are not careful to relay them out to the employee, it becomes a problem. I know someone who resigned because he felt like the medical option that was given to the company was not right. His dependent went to the hospital and for the whole of the year, he had just about 1,000 Ghana cedis medical for the child. It was like, no. So these are things that employees look out for, whether to be engaged or not to be engaged. So employee engagement plays a very critical role in every activity that HR does. And I mean, the others lies on us as HR persons to ensure that all employees are engaged. right from the day or the moment they step into the premises till they walk out of the premises. What activities are you putting in place to ensure that they are engaged? What are you doing to ensure that this person, when he leaves after work, would come back the following day? Because personally, I have left an organization where I didn't go back again the following morning.
Wow. Has anybody else done that before? Oh, no, feel free. I mean, you go to work and like, Charlie, you know what? Charlie, I really don't want to do this, man. I'm going to go home.
But I need to say this, because let me say this.
Me, I do some before.
Because it is not about, sometimes people don't work for salary.
Oh, yeah, definitely. No.
I personally, although rather if you give me about like, say, a very nice money.
Like $1 million a month, you'd be cool. Yeah.
But I would also check if your system, your culture is right. I'll check if your environment is right. I'll check if your people mindset is right. I'll check if any other thing that you are doing apart from my salary is right. Then I'll stay. If not, I'll exit. Otilo, thank you.
Are we boss? Mary. So I'm going to go through a very quick preamble, okay? Because we are starting another phase of the conversation. Now, design thinking has evolved from a niche design methodology to a cornerstone of innovation across various sectors. Now we are concentrating on HR. Now, initially, it was popularized as product design, but it has evolved beyond mere aesthetics to become a holistic approach. Now, let's underline holistic approach and concentrate on it. Hope and David have given us some very interesting insights on employee engagement and executive engagement when it comes to this. I mean, these are two sides of the coin, employee engagement and engagement with the CEO. Now, let's look at that middle ground. Now, how are we able to use design thinking to be that bridge between all of this, to ensure that for everything we do, to ensure that our organization runs right with the right people, that give us the right outcomes, that ensure that we have the right productivity, we get everything right, the balance is right.
Thank you so much. I think what both my colleagues here have identified or have shared with us is that HR does need a seat at the table. And for us to be credible, we should be having the conversations with our CEOs, we should have our data right, we should be able to proffer solutions that have an impact. We should be able to show the benefits of our solutions to the business. I think that's one. But what's important is that if HR does have a seat at the table, then some of these things become very easy. And again, back to the point around the Gestalt methodology, being very similar to the design thinking approach. So if you are designing any intervention as well, it's important that we do not sit in our ivory towers. That's why businesses have strategy sessions. That's why an HR director will have a strategy session with their HR team. That's why you would go off and have conversations around what is our work plan, what do we need now, medium, long term, and what does that look like? So if you don't sit at a particular table and you involve other people, it's very important. Now, for me, what that works is that you get different people in the business, and that's what we do in the organization I've worked in, Telecel Ghana. I worked at Talo as well. That's what we did. We're rolling the success factors out. The people that were involved, those of us who were involved in working, we called it 2.0. Those of us that were involved in working on the different models, whether it's a learning model, a recruitment model, what have you, we all met at a particular location, drew up the assets, and then looked at the to-be. We worked it into the system. We did the testing, so we had employees, because it has an employee self-service, a manager self-service. We had managers testers, employees tested. We've put that feedback back into the system where we can have different iterations, and then we rolled it out. If you have your users involved in putting together the content, then buy-in is very, very easy, or the solution or the strategy session. But again, this is very easy when you have HR that sits at the table, HR that is seen as providing value to the business, HR that has a voice and can be seen and is very visible. And I think David and Hope have raised very valid points around when HR is not at the table and you're not seen to be providing value, then it becomes very difficult to use a design thinking approach. Because you may go to your CEO and say, or your leadership team and say, oh, we are rolling this out. We want everyone to meet. They don't see the value. There's work to be done. Why are you going away somewhere to get it done? So I think it's very, very important that we build that into everything that we do. And sometimes you may not necessarily have the time to pull everyone together. There are ways you can do this. You can do questionnaires. You can just pick people, do focus groups. You can find different ways to build this. You can have systems in our organization, for example, when you use certain systems, automatically you can even do a smiley face. You can quickly give a feedback on how that system is working for you. And that feeds back into continuous improvement on the work that we do.
That's amazing. A round of applause for our panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, the insights are amazing, absolutely amazing. And because they've taken us from a world where there was no design thinking to an ideal world where design thinking is shaping a lot of things, from processes to employee engagement, etc. Now, we have the ideal situation, okay, that we've all preferred, where there's design thinking. But then again, how will we measure the effectiveness of this design thinking over time, David?
It has to generate business results. You know, somebody said that while the CEO measures the effectiveness of trainings by how much profit it brings to the business, HR often ends at how people felt after the training. You know, so it was great, the food was nice, great facilitator, and then it ends there. We have to be able to connect, you know, outcomes beyond HR metrics to business metrics. So somebody says that you can have HR metrics that doesn't speak business language. More often than not, when you go for management meetings, you hear the finance people say a particular thing. Finance is the language of business. They're very emphatic about that. You know, but what they forget is that, so I remember there was a time I asked my CFO that, who hired you? And she kept on and on and on and on and on. I said, okay. So when she finished, and I said, so who hired you? Who brought you here? You know, so we are not in contention. I'm just saying that we're not in competition with other functional areas. That's not our work. But what is important is that we have to understand that as HR people, the metrics that we place premium on, or we consider paramount, must connect with business. But I also want to chip in on what Mary said. It's very important to engage, you know, because in engagement, and we have to make time to listen. I think I heard one senior HR person say that we have to bring back human to the HR. You know, so human resource management. It appears we've taken the human out of the HR management. We've become very mechanical and automatic. So we need to engage, we need to listen, because sometimes ideas come from some of the most strange places or places unimagined. And there's one principle that I believe in. We should always let the best idea win. You know, it's very important. When I joined Petrosol about 2.5 years ago, I noticed there was a serious culture or disengagement level, very high disengagement level. Now, when I engaged around, what I got was that there was this strong family bond at the time of when they first started. And then when COVID came in, they shut down a lot of the engagement activities they had. And then they relocated to a new office. So first we were at Tessano, we moved to East Legon. Now, once we came to East Legon, everybody felt like a big man and a big woman. So the SWA family...
They associate with David Mills. I mean, they are big men and big women.
the SWA family connect, you know, disappeared, sort of. So it was a tall order. And I kept asking myself, how do we, you know, transform this whole culture thing? Because it was a problem. In a space of 3 weeks when I joined, I had 3 resignations, you know. And listen, I have redefined attrition in a very interesting way. I don't see it as a killer anymore. Because if people don't leave, people don't step up, all right? And we have to begin to think differently about a lot of things that are KPI'd on HR, and we are required to deliver on them, and it makes the CEO happy, and everybody thinks we are bad people and all of that. So the long and short is that what I found out was that this problem predates me. So I asked, what can we do? So we had a staff there, and I threw it back to the people. That let's be brutally honest. Disengagement is very high, you know. And so how do we bring back the love? Now, people started to say, okay, you know what? This is it. This is that, this is that. It borders on 3 things. Line manager, the lack of line manager coaching. 2, compensation issues. And 3, neglect of the CEO. Very interesting. So 3 things. So people felt that their line managers were no longer interested in having one-on-one dialogues with them. And it's very important that we spend time to coach, to guide, and to counsel. The third point, which I found very ridiculous, was the fact that CEO neglect. And I wanted to be very honest with them that, listen, the business has grown. If in year 1, the CEO could come to everybody's office and give people high five, in year 7, he's thinking about how to take the business to the next level. So what I'm saying is that it is through engagement that we deduce ideas that we're able to leverage on that to now begin to work on engagement levels and bring back the love. Because that is critical. If you're losing your top talents, it certainly has a detrimental impact on productivity, and we know that for a fact.
I mean, knowing your CEO, I'm sure if you had an opportunity, he'd greet everybody every day. I mean, he's a very good friend of mine, absolutely amazing guy, Mr. Bozumbela Petrosol. Round of applause for David Mills, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
Let me just do a quick add up to what David said. I remember when I joined Polytank, I also realized they had issues with manpower, people resigning back and forth. They didn't want to work. They would not come to work. I mean, it was high. And one of the issues that they highlighted to me when I joined was this was the problem. People don't want to come to work. So I had 2 things to do. Meet them one-on-one. I had a town hall. What are the issues, one-on-one, department-wise? What are the problems you are facing? Some of them had issues with their line managers, like David rightly said. Some of them had issues where they stayed. Okay, so now HR need to now come in and design a strategy that would fit into the culture of the business, so that the CEO or the general manager does not see you as or see HR as a cost center. So the problem is one of the things that people do, or our superiors will do, is that they say HR is a cost center, but they don't know the effect of what we do to the organization. We are not a cost center, but rather a profit center. And all the things that we do actually reflect into the productivity of the business. So I needed to now come and then justify the things that we're going to do and how it was going to impact the business. Putting a cost aside, taking up activities that has low cost impact, and then looking at things that I can actually do that would benefit the organization. So I had what we also call the change agents. The change agents were people who were supposed to meet their colleagues one-on-one. So apart from, you see, sometimes people do not want to come to HR, but they can talk to their colleagues. So now how do I get to them? Although I can get to them, I need to speak to their mind. But their colleagues, when they are going home, they talk. So how then do I inform their mind? So I can inform their minds and their activities through their colleagues. So I get their colleagues, this is what we want to do, this is what we want to roll out. And then they will be the ones to champion it. And once you get their buy-in, everybody gets to come on board. That's the reason for collaboration. And once you do everything and you want to be the one to handle everything, you lose out a lot. You need to get them involved, get their leaders, get people who are close to them, friends of them, and then they'll run it out for you.
I told you my panelists had superpowers. You want to add something to it? Fantastic.
I just want to add to it. I think that it's important when it comes to employee engagement, it's important again to hear from the people. So having the town hall well and good is great. But a lot of organizations are doing employee engagement survey. You can commission an organization, you can work with a consultant, and there are various consultants with low budget fees, high budget fees, right? And you can also use Microsoft Forms, etc. to do it. But I think, or SurveyMonkey. But I think what is really important is what you do with it. Because sometimes in town halls and in large sessions, people are in a place where people do not feel safe to speak up or share their thoughts. They will keep quiet. So you have the people that are the opinion leaders, etc., going on and on and on and on about it. So when I was at Ericsson, what was very important is that we used to have an employee engagement survey every year and a pulse survey twice a year. And what was important was that the HR director had an engagement score, or the HR manager had an engagement score, the HR director at group level had an engagement score, same score, the country manager had an engagement score, same score. So what gets measured, we all know what gets measured gets done. Now what's important is that after those sessions, we sit and we find out with employees, we share with the results, these are the issues that have come up. What do we do with it? The last one before I left the organization, one was collaboration between different functions. One was, again, CEO engagement, time with CEO, and again, understanding what other people do. So the first thing, and again back to design thinking, that was like over 10 years ago. We sat with them, so the ideas came from the employees. So what do? First one, CEO sits, and it was difficult finding his diary. His PA picks the people, HR, we give the list to the PA, she picks random people, and she keeps the tabs, right? And they meet the CEO for breakfast, for lunch. In Vodafone, we do chats with CEO, a bit like your town hall. So FaceTime with the CEO, right? You can ask any questions, they share updates, etc. And if you do the breakfast sessions or the lunch sessions, it's a bit more intimate. The second thing we did was what we call knowledge sharing series. So we are saying that there's not a lot of collaboration, we don't know what other people do. So we meet once a month every Friday, and people like finger food. Small chops in Ghana, everybody will show up. And so they
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. So they come in, and then you have different functions. Let's say the operations function share what they are doing. The commercial function that handles let's say I don't want to mention the competitor's name, but a particular account for the operator, they share their knowledge. I found out about 3G, LTE, even before I came to Ghana, from some of these sessions. And it's very great sessions because people learn different things, build different skills. And the last thing was really sharing exactly what everyone was doing and publishing a calendar around these are activities. And also we used to have, what's it called? Christmas parties per function. So we had a budget for every head. And the contractors did not have a budget. So what we did was that instead of going off and having it with just FTEs, forgetting about contractors, we had a big party, and then we had it down. I don't know how many of you know Think Mahogany Events.
I do.
Yes. So she used to work there. So she organized it. We did it on the office premises, on the grounds at Golf House, and everybody participated. And
Maybe next time when you're having a party, please call me.
So these are some other ways that we can also.
Amazing. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. So my panelists are superhuman because they probably read my mind. They read my mind because I had one final question I was going to pose to every single one of you. Now, one of the key elements of design thinking is empathy. Key element. Now, a lot of people confuse empathy with sentiment. Okay, they are completely different. It's a very thin line. Okay. And you managed to answer all the questions I was about to ask because you drew our attention to what it felt like to understand people and have the engagement processes being fluid by having that understanding. 10 seconds each. Should we make empathy the most important element of design thinking as HR people?
I think when you take empathy out of dealings with people, then you are not human anymore, because people come to the workplace with all manner of nuances. I've always made the point that I support female leadership development and women empowerment very strongly, So much so that at Petrosol we have something we call Petrosol Women Network. It's an initiative we have deliberately designed to build leadership capacity of women. I'm one of those people that do not think that, there are affirmative actions that say that put women in leadership roles. I think there's a problem with that, because leadership, like I've always said, submits to competence, effectiveness. It's not a gender thing. You can put a man in a role, he can mess up. You can put a woman in a role, she can mess up. And I've always also made the point that if you look around, most of our blue chip companies are run by women, all right? It tells you something, that these women are competent. They didn't get there accidentally. What is even more ironical is if you check their boards of directors, they are male dominated. So why are male directors appointing female CEOs? Because they are competent. It has nothing to do with gender. We don't need to make it sentimental, it's a competency thing. So I felt, and together with the CEO and other senior leadership, we felt that let's have this network to build leadership capacity. Because ostensibly, as people rise up, and I think Hope made that point, you can set people up for failure. I have an outstanding female employee in my company, and 2 days ago I was having a conversation with her. Her name keeps coming up in the promotion conversation. But I look at her and I think she's an appropriately placed talent. So 2 years ago before I joined, I think 3 years ago before I joined, there was an opportunity to step up. And the then head of department gave the opportunity to a guy. I think it had more to do with friction between he and the lady than it has to do with competence. Because really, on the competency scorecard, the lady is better than the guy.
So sentiment won there.
You can say that. But the issue is observing the lady and looking at her skill and her strength. She's one of our most prized station managers. Those of you who use Oyari for stretch, she's called Eunice, just passed by in Bifo. An outstanding station manager by all standards. I thought the ladies would clap for her, even though you don't know her.
Rabna, please, can you give David Mills an invoice? He's advertising for Petrosol,
Stop
Oyarifa brand.
You know, an outstanding station manager. So I had a conversation. I said, Eunice, you know what? Let's be honest, because you're at a point in your life where you have to be certain about your career direction. You're not going any younger. So let's not play dice with your career. The trajectory you're on, you can become a territory manager, blah, blah, blah. But it's field intensive. And I realized that one, she doesn't drive. I also realized that she has some nuances that doesn't connect with that role. So I said, you know what? We're looking at having a new unit next year, which has to do with corporate. Think about it. It's two things. Either you stay in station management and you become like a star. So not a vertical growth, but horizontal. But you can rise. You can earn as high a paycheck as somebody probably in senior management and become like a mentor, a coach to other up-and-coming station managers. Or think about corporate. You know, so the point I'm trying to make is that it's empathy that allows us to have these meaningful conversations through which we're able to then diagnose solutions that enhance the employee experience. But what I would say in a nutshell, and you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, every company must understand that its growth and its sustainability hinges on highly equipped women. I told you people will clap. Highly equipped women. And you see, it's not a feel-good statement. It's fact. The literature shows that if you have more women in the boardroom on leadership teams, there's tremendous growth. The reason is this. You see, women bring certain instincts, and we all have mothers and wives and girlfriends. They bring certain instincts. I remember a former girlfriend of mine once telling me not to go to a particular place. Because see,
can you please share her name with us?
No. And I ignored her and went in SMNE. You know.
Please, hope so we should add side chicks. Side chicks there. I mean, the man there is not happy.
Please,
add side chicks so that he'll be happy.
Side chicks. I don't know about side
concubines.
chicks. The married woman will not be happy with you. You know, so I think it's very important that as companies we take female leadership development very seriously. It should be key on every corporate strategy. As part of our strategy for the year, so just a couple of weeks back, we had a Women in Leadership Conference as part of International Women's Day. And we are having a cohort-based leadership program for some of our high potential women. We are deliberately investing in female leadership development because we believe that it portends well for our growth and our sustainability. Yeah.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Mr. David Mills. So Mary, same question to you. I mean, empathy and sentiment. I mean, Charlie, the line is very thin.
I think what you said is very true, but I strongly believe that empathy in the design thinking process gives you data, gives you hard data you can work with. It's always said that you haven't walked in a man's shoes for 7 moons, you can't tell their story, right? So empathy then gives you the opportunity to understand people's perspectives, the people that are actually living the dream or living the life within your organization, to give you a view of what's going on. Now, with us at Telecel Ghana, for example, in some of these things, we realize that in base of empathy, finding out data, using the data to work for us, we realize that our organization, which is in the tech industry, tech and IT industry, has always had more males than females, right? So I'm touching on the D&I agenda. So we are very deliberate about our women conversation. So in our HR strategy, in our recruitment strategy, something as simple as a shortlist, we always ensure that there's a female involved in the shortlist. If we are looking for highly technical roles, we make sure that there's a female involved in the shortlist. And we are very deliberate around having leadership support, having someone in the organization that's responsible for diversity and inclusion. But again, the data is also very important that with regards to D&I, that we focus on disability as well, and youth with regards to, Ghana Telecom has been in Ghana for as long as I can remember, right? And so making sure that you are filling your talent pipeline with the youth program. So again, we have people that we call them on our Super Care program that have a disability. So every program we have, and this is back to empathy, back to the data, right? Every program, making sure that you're representative of your customers and the countries that you're operating. So we have people that are there. So every program, we have people doing the sign language internally. We have someone internally that does the sign language, supporting people who are on the Super Care program. And then within our youth program, we have, graduate recruitment and development program. We take national service personnel, we take internships, and we go to schools and build digital skills. We also are deliberate about not just building the skills within our organization and encouraging STEM within the workforce, but we also run a program which we call Code Like a Girl. So we go into the communities and touch young people as well. So again, back to the data. Back to the data, how do you collect the data? By walking in the people's shoes, by speaking to the people that are living it every day, finding out what their problems are, bringing it back into your organization and do it. I think recently we did what we call a frontliner event, so understanding everybody in our organization that deals with our customers. So there was a big debate, we met with the CEO, a big like your town hall event, and leadership was there, and then we found out, we did different sessions, workshop, etc., and found out what are your issues. And one of the things that came out is that they would like to have access to our online learning platform. So what have we done since the debate? We implemented that. And that has changed a lot within our organization. We also ended up rolling out what we call a frontliner transformation or retail transformation projects, etc. That's ongoing. And so this year, and last year, every month we are running different skills build programs for our frontliners and our retail team. And so it's really having what I call a listening ear, and then they know the problem, they know the answer. But of course, as leadership, sometimes you have to guide the conversation with budgets, with resources, with people, and also have timelines to close those gaps and make sure that's also aligned to your strategy. If it's not aligned to the strategy, then you probably need to go back to the drawing board, look at it, and make the necessary changes, and then run with it. So
Amazing stuff from Telecel. Round of applause. My HR is here. I would have asked if you have any rules available, unfortunately. Yes. Who? Yeah, no, my HR is here. I would have asked, but.
Oh, we can talk back though. I need to fill my rooms.
So, because right from the beginning, David gave us an acronym. Assuming we took one letter out of the acronym, I don't know how that was going to sound. The name you tried mentioning may sound something else. And I'm sure most of us, when we got in today, we did not test the chair we are sitting on to see if it's okay for us to sit. We just sat down. If we should remove one leg of it, see how it's going to work. The issue is that if we are not empathetic as HR, we will not be able to do a lot of things in the organization we serve in or we work in. We must display empathy in all the things that we do, right from, like I said from the beginning, onboarding of probably from the selection till the person exits the organization. You must be empathetic towards employees. Empathy would cause you to bring in the design thinking, would cause you to be result-oriented, to think like the CEO, to want to bring profit to the organization. So if you put yourself in the CEO's shoes, you want to think like him, you want to behave like him. If I'm going to do this, will the CEO do this? Way back again in Olam, we have the founder's mentality, where you think like the founder, you behave like the founder. You want to do things like the founder would do. If he's supposed to be the HR manager, he's supposed to be the marketing manager. If he's standing there, if you are the CEO, would you do what he's supposed to do? So empathy will lead us to do a whole lot of things, from engagement to recruitment to ideal to everything. If you are not empathetic about the organization you are working with, you would come in late, you don't care about employees. And trust me, there are HRs who do not care about employees. All they care about is the CEO, their top management, to please them. Okay, but you should have that synergy, pleasing the top management and also having to deal with the issues that employees bring your way. So there'll be issues every day, but how are you going to solve them for the employees? Because they are going to see you as their lawyer, they're going to see you as their mother, they're going to see you as their nurse. Sometimes somebody can come to me, my phone is spoiled, what do you want me to do? Do I look like a phone repairer? But I mean, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the person. Okay, how do I solve the problem for the person? Okay, can we connect somebody? Engineers, please, can we connect somebody to do this for this person? Once you do that, it registers in the minds of the person that this person solved a problem for me. So next time, the person can trust you with another challenge or another problem, maybe personal, can come to you and say, okay, I will have this problem. How do you help me to solve it? And the person would trust you with every information you give them. There you have HR being at bed with employees, and they are able to solve the problem. So empathy is critical. It will help us to do the things that we are supposed to do as HR, and not relate them to probably top managers who are not probably, let me not use the word, not doing anything.
A round of applause for my panelists, ladies and gentlemen. We can do it better for them. A resounding round of applause. I mean, their insights have been absolutely phenomenal. We can do it better. Come on. Let's do it for them. Okay, so now we want to invite questions, contributions, wherever it may be. It's an interactive session, so we want to hear everybody's voice. So if you have any questions, any for our panelists, please just raise your hand. But first of all, I would like to acknowledge our sponsors, Agrigor and Lene HR. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the MD of Lene HR, Mr. James La, who is in the building. A round of applause for Mr. James La, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. So, any questions, any contributions, please just put your hand up, and then I would be more than happy to walk up to you.
I think our panelists have done well, and we need to clap for them. I'm really happy to have joined, and I think that talking about design, it is important to have a design thinking in your organization. But you have to also modify it along the trends. It cannot be cast in stone, because today things are changing very fast. And for those of us who are in smaller organizations, you have to take your policies little by little, one step at a time. I've always encouraged that implement everything that HR requires you to do. Just like I can talk about Vodafone, because they are always our sponsors for our conferences, and also MTN. You cannot be or put things in place to be like MTN today, or Vodafone today, or now it's Telecel. So implement everything, but invest in a little budget little at a time. Never leave anything behind. When you grow with it, for the SMEs, if you grow with it, it becomes part and parcel of you. And it's not like in the middle of your operations, you are now going to implement maybe a health insurance program to cover everyone in the organization private. That would be very expensive. But there are ways to start it, and you get to a point where everybody is covered, even up to the platinum, and you will still be okay with it. You can accommodate it because it's not new to you. That's what I would say about design. All these things we are saying, they are very simple. They are very simple to do, but it is not easy. That is what you should know. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of persuasion. Earlier, David talked about something, and that is the crux of HR or organizations. If you do not have talent, and for me, talent is capacity. You need the right people in your organization to do the right work. Now, if I ask which organizations are the top brands in this country, if you see an organization that has strong brand, check their HR department. It is not about the marketing or the corporate people. In any case, like David said, who brings the corporate people into the organization? It is the HR who, or let me say HR leadership at the table, who designs and contributes concerning the kind of resources that must come into the organization. So the strong brands is not about the organization has a good marketing strategy. No, it's because there's somebody behind those marketing strategies, and it is the HR. And strong brands come from employer branding. Who does employer branding? It is the HR. And I am proud of our HR people in Ghana for doing greater things. And I believe that strong corporate brand is not about big pay also. They pay big, but how do they treat the people? Okay, so when it comes to empathy, I will encourage all of us to observe our people. It will give us some clues, then we can take some action. And like Audrey prefers to say, it's all about data. When you observe, you take data, and the data will help you to make the right decision. So these are a few comments I want to add about the design thinking in HR today. And please just have fun and let's connect. It is a small gathering, but we have to make it enjoyable because we are the HR people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lai. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I should place myself within academia or industry, but I kind of stand in between. On weekends, I lecture with the Cambridge Center of Excellence as an HR instructor for the SPHR. And then Monday to Friday, I work in academia. So I kind of, yeah. But I've been enjoying the conversation, especially from my main boss, David. We used to be working somewhere together some time back, not as full-time job, but as trainees. And so I'm happy to see him here. So just to add to the topic, I just want to point our attention to the evolution of the profession. I think a lot of professions have gone through evolutions. For those who are from the field of marketing, we learned that marketing used to be a production-focused agenda, where in the Industrial Revolution, people believe whatever you produce, they will buy. Then at a point, they realized that concept wasn't working. They moved to the sales era, where they believe if you can push the product to the people, they will buy. Later, they realized that wasn't also working, and then they switched to what we currently call marketing. And in the HR profession, we have also transitioned from a welfare function, and I'm sure that's where we had a concept that HR cares for employees. But what is the essence of caring for employees when we don't realize the return on investment in caring for them? And so we have moved from a welfare function to an administrative function, the era of personnel management, to HR management, to strategic HR, and even moving into digital HR. And this concept of design thinking and others, including project management, agile, and all that, are all coming in because we realize strategic HR needs to add value. We want to contribute to the bottom line. For accountants, they have also left the focus on just numbers, profit, to extra 2 Ps, planet, and then people. And so for HR, we even still contribute to one of their Ps, profit, planet, and people. And so just in summary, the whole concept is that we'll never stop learning because things are changing. Since 2019, like I said, I've been leading the SPHR certification course. Almost every year, there is a revision in the course material. 2024, we've just started. We have to rebuild a whole new slide altogether because things have changed. There is even a session on AI and a whole lot of stuff. And so, yeah, so unfortunately, a lot of people have not shifted. A lot of people are still within the personnel era. Others even in the welfare state, they want to care for them. and only few have transitioned to strategic level. Last year, as I conclude, during a program similar event at Fiesta Royal Hotel, the HR for, I think, Taco, is it Taco? One energy company in Takrady. Yes, she made a presentation relating to that, and I used to post about that on LinkedIn a lot. So she inboxed me one day and trying to engage me that she loves what I'm writing about because she realized a lot of people haven't transitioned yet. And that is why CEOs or senior management will always complain. Sometimes it isn't because we are not doing the work, but we are not accounting for our work. In the SPHR, there's a session they call HR accounting. So just as accountant will provide financial statement to quantify their finance staff, how do we also present our HR operations to present our finance HR? So they can see the training we held, we invested 10,000 cedis. At the end of the year, we have seen an increase in productivity. When we measure, this is the return on investment of 10,000 cedis in training. But because we usually tell emotional stories, instead of numbers, we present narratives. They find it difficult to really see because we couldn't speak the language of business, which is numbers or finance. And so my contribution is that let's shift from Nokia 3310 to Samsung S24, fully loaded. Thank you very much.
The iPhone users are bleeding. We are sorry. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That was absolutely phenomenal. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And a round of applause for yourselves as well, man. You guys have been awesome. Thank you. So now we'll take our questions and contributions. If you have anything to ask or to say, just raise up your hands. I'll walk up to you. Doesn't matter where you are. So we'll take our questions and our contributions at this point. Yes, boss.
Talking about empathy, I want to know if we don't think that there's some level of empathy that should be entertained in the corporate section or in our workplace. Because let me give a critical scenario. You have a female employee, and during every month, her menstrual cycle breaks down her work schedule for a week. Within the whole week, she can't work because it's very severe. You being empathetic, or you enter the company looking at the data, you found out that during every month, this employee finds it difficult to work. So there's a barrier, or there's some less productivity in that section. You enter the company, what level of empathy can you entertain? Is she going to leave for you to bring in a new talent so that you increase productivity, or you continue to exercise that empathy towards this employee?
Thank you. So I'd like to approach it from two angles. So I've had a personal experience where I owned an micro, medium, small scale enterprise, right? Not SMU. MSME, yes. And I had an employee that I just recruited. I was so excited. And then this girl, she started the first week, then the second week, she didn't come for like 3 days. When we called her, she said it was her period. And literally, it was just 2 employees, and they were on a shift. And so eventually, I had to make a decision to actually get someone else and take the cost, because the business wasn't making enough to pay for the extra hands. I had to take that decision. But if you are a really small organization, sometimes practically it may be difficult to accommodate. But as an employer, from a labor law perspective, etc., we need to make reasonable adjustments to do that. But I think that what is important is that for us females, and I talk about it from a female angle, if I have a male boss and I'm going through this period, I may have some difficulty sharing with them. So that's why it's important that as HR professionals, we have an open door policy. We have situations where things like the women network groups like you have, we have the same thing at Telecel Ghana. You have like leaders, etc., within the business, and create avenues where people feel safe to share some of these things so that it trickles down and you can have in policies, etc., to support that. In large organizations, it's very easy to do that. You can give time off for things like that. And if you are focused on outputs, if I was a female and I had that problem and you gave me that time off, the time I was in office, I'll be like giving my over 200%, and most females would do that. So if you're a larger organization, yes, you can afford, you can accommodate, etc. If you are smaller, it may be a bit tricky, but have the conversations with your leadership and support that. But create that avenue so people feel safe to have those conversations, because it may be difficult to have the conversations with the males.
What if as a man I have to take care of my wife in that situation? Will you give me some time to work from home?
We actually do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So some organizations have family responsibility leave, etc. So I'll encourage you to do that if it's possible.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much.
You know, it's a very sensitive issue, right? For somebody who works with two ladies, I mean, I can relate. Now, what I do is that I'm very open with the ladies I work with. Occasionally, when I walk to the office and I see there's one who has very serious cramps when she's in that period. But once I see her a bit moody, then hey, are you donating blood? You know, then we laugh it off. So she say, yes. She opens up. Now, these are not easy conversations to have. Even if you had a lady boss. So it's even more difficult if it's a male boss, you know. So when I approach it from that angle, they are then able to open up, you know, and then let me know what they are going through. I think that the work from home thing has come to stay, and we have to understand it. When I joined Petrosol, there were imminent challenges with lateness. And we have about 46% of our workforce are women. In fact, at the head office, they're about 54%, so female dominated. So they had issues coming to work on time. When I digged deeper, and again, empathy, what I figured out was that they had to attend to domestic chores, and it makes sense. So I introduced two things: a flexible working policy and a work from home. So at Petrosol, people choose what time they come to work and what time they close. So if you say you want to come to work at 8, because don't forget that in the labor law, 8 to 5 is not anywhere in the labor law. It says 40 hours per week. It's just a come to stay practice. So people can work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, as long as cumulatively sums up 40 hours. I mean, the law is fine with that. So what I did was, if you come to work at 8, you close at 5. Come 8:30, you close 5:30. You come 9, close 6. Come 9. So we capped it at 9:30 for cost rationalization, all right? Now, what did I observe? I saw a dramatic improvement in terms of the lateness curve. Then we also said people could work from home one day. So we have what we call productivity analysis, and I actually quantify the productivity score. So I do an average productivity score per week. And I use this to make a case to senior leadership team that if people work from home, productivity is not adversely affected, you know. So like they rightly said, you could extend some flexes to such persons. No, we have to care. There's no way we cannot bring empathy to the workplace. Otherwise, then we are machines, you know. And more so, it's easier to make a case for people who are highly productive. If you have a lady, and I have one lady in my department who is extremely hardworking, there's nothing if Elsie comes up to tell me, I will not extend to her, because she gets things done. I used to work with Angela. Angela, give them a wave.
A round of applause for Angela, ladies and gentlemen.
So that's Cossy's HR. And I used to work with Angela Lede. Fantastic lady, you know. I used to blast Angela, but she would take it and still deliver results because Mr. Lion is on me. You know, there's nothing if Angela came to tell me, I will not extend to it. Angela, if I'm lying, tell them I'm lying. You know, so the point is, you also need to position yourself as a hard-working person so that when you make some of those cases, it can be granted. But I think we need to care and empathize. If men went through menstrual periods for one day, we will stop the bam, pam, pam, pam we have been doing.
I want to criticize Hope and David. Why do you always ask the ladies whether it's that time of the period? Because we know it's a difficult conversation to have. So what I will recommend, I think I've been working in Lene for about 20 years. And around the 2010, 2012, we implemented something we call flexi hours or flexi work. And I think in 2019, we had a conference, and the team was agile working. That was October. And then 4 months later, COVID came and we had to go agile. So we started agile working or remote working. We were not I will say it again, we were not the Vodafone and the MTN with the facilities. But we started because we always want to try every policy or new policy around HR. So when COVID came, it was just easy. We had empowered our people, to work from home. So in more advanced organizations, and these are things that SMEs or the smaller ones can learn. They have flexi hours, and if you want to implement it well, you don't really need the lady to come and let you know that it's this time of the month. Let them have a choice as to when they want to take the flexi hours. So when they are applying it, everybody in the department doesn't know that. You get the point. So for me, I think that that part can help.
Thank you. So then again, you can join the HR Focus community. Abigail, where are you? Abigail, where are you? Okay, one Abigail is here. They say Abigail is the most common name in Ghana. Jennifer, Mary, Jemima. Those are the... We have to stop those names, So we need to move to LeSean and all of that. Yeah, so one Abigail is here. So please speak to Abigail. She would get you hooked up to HR Focus Universe. Then again, in the second quarter, we have another interactive. That will be on the 28th of June. And then in the third quarter, we have our HR Focus Conference. Everybody say whoop, 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 whoop. Yeah, definitely. We're getting ready for our conference, which will be amazing as well. And I want to say a big thank you once again to all of you for being a part of this. My name is Kosi Fiaka. It's been an absolute pleasure. Oh, won't you clap for me? Oh. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure. The bar is still open. Tomorrow is a holiday. Is anybody going to work tomorrow? Tomorrow is a holiday, so today you can drink and have a good time as much as you can. So the bar is open. The music is about to blaze. Thank you to our resource persons. Thank you to you. The party is just about to get started. It is the HR launch, ladies and gentlemen.